Hey there! Today we're going to break down something that sounds complicated, but is actually pretty straightforward once you get the basics. Don't worry if you've never studied economics. I'm going to explain everything in plain English. No headaches guaranteed.
Exploding debt is a real worry if you're an investor.
Debt is piling up.
The music stops when you get a major crisis.
The big question is, at what point does the bond market break?
$1 trillion in the event of a megaquake. That's equivalent to around half of Japan's total gross domestic product.
So here's the deal. Japan and America have this special relationship that goes way beyond sushi and Hollywood movies. For decades, they've been tight partners in just about everything. You've probably heard about all those U.S. military bases scattered across Japan, especially in Okinawa. Those bases help America keep an eye on things in Asia and maintain stability in the region. And economically, Japanese companies are everywhere in America, building cars, making electronics, you name it. But there's another way Japan has been America's bestie that most people don't know about, and that's what we're diving into today. Japan has been America's biggest lender. Wait, America borrows money? Yep, just like you might need a loan for a car or house, the U.S. government needs to borrow money too. When the government spends more than it collects in taxes, which happens pretty much every year, it has to make up the difference by borrowing. How does it borrow? By selling something called treasury bonds. Basically IOUs, where the government promises to pay back the money with interest. And guess who's been buying tons of these IOUs? Japan. Think of it like this. Japan has been America's most reliable ATM for years. When America needs cash, Japan says, "Sure thing, here you go." Let me throw some numbers at you, but I promise they're easy to grasp. As of January 2025, Japan holds over $1 trillion in U.S. debt. That's $1 trillion, a million millions, about $8,000 for every single Japanese citizen. To put this in perspective, Japan's entire economy, their GDP, is only about $4.2 trillion. So they've loaned America nearly a quarter of their entire economic output. It's like if your buddy who makes $50,000 a year loaned you $12,500. That's a serious chunk of change. But something's changing. Here's where things get interesting. For years, Japan kept buying more and more U.S. debt. They were all in, but recently, they've been quietly doing the opposite. They've been selling. From January 2022 to January 2025, Japan reduced its holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds from $1.29 trillion to $1.07 trillion. That's a drop of $220 billion in just 3 years. Now, $220 billion might not sound like much when we're talking trillions, but imagine your friend who always lends you money suddenly asking for $220 back. You'd notice, right? You'd probably wonder, hey, is everything okay? So what's going on? You might be thinking, uh-oh, does Japan not trust America anymore? Or is this the beginning of some economic disaster? Don't worry, the situation is a lot more practical than dramatic. Let me break down the real reasons Japan is selling off some of America's IOUs. Reason number 1, Japan needs cash at home. Japan has its own problems to deal with. Their economy has been struggling for years despite super low interest rates and all kinds of government attempts to jumpstart growth. Meanwhile, their public debt is through the roof, about 260% of their GDP. For comparison, U.S. debt is around 120% of GDP. So Japan's in a tight spot. Recently, the Japanese government has been rolling out stimulus packages to boost wages and help people deal with rising costs. And guess what? Those programs need money. So Japan is essentially taking some of its saving, U.S. Treasury bonds, and cashing them in to pay for things at home. It's like if you had some money in a savings account, but suddenly needed cash to fix your car, you'd withdraw from savings, right? Reason number 2, the yen is taking a beating. This is the big one, and it affects everyday Japanese people directly. Japan's currency, the yen, has been getting weaker and weaker against the US dollar. At one point recently, it took 160 yen to buy just $1, the weakest it's been in decades. Why does this matter? Because when your currency weakens, everything you import gets more expensive, and Japan imports a lot, especially energy. Let's look at what Japan imports the most: mineral fuels, oils, and energy products. Japan is an island nation with very few natural resources, so they have to import almost all their energy. Here's the problem: oil, gas, and coal are all priced in US dollars on global markets. So when the yen gets weaker, the same barrel of oil costs more yen. Electricity bills go up, gas prices rise, manufacturing costs increase, food prices climb because farms and food processing need energy too. Basically, a weak yen means everyday life gets more expensive for Japanese people. And that's a huge political problem for any government. How selling U.S. debt helps Japan's currency. So, what does selling U.S. Treasury bonds have to do with the yen's value? Here's how it works. 1. Japan decides the yen is too weak and needs support. 2. To strengthen the yen, Japan needs to buy yen and sell dollars. 3. Where can Japan get dollars to sell? From its U.S. Treasury holdings. 4. Japan sells some U.S. Treasury bonds for dollars. 5. Then uses those dollars to buy yen on currency markets. 6. This increased demand for yen helps boost its value. It's like creating artificial demand for the yen. When more people, or in this case, the Japanese government, want to buy yen, its price goes up compared to other currencies. These aren't small moves either. In April 2024, Japan likely spent about $48 billion to support the yen. Then in July 2024, they dropped another $22 billion. That's serious money. Is this bad for America? Now you might be wondering, should Americans be worried that Japan is selling off U.S. debt? The short answer? Not really. The long answer: while Japan has sold quite a bit, it still holds over $1 trillion in U.S. debt and remains America's biggest foreign lender. This isn't Japan abandoning America, it's Japan dealing with its own problems. Think of it this way: Japan isn't selling because it suddenly thinks U.S. Treasury bonds are a bad investment. It's selling because it needs the money for specific purposes, mainly supporting its own currency. It's kind of like how you might sell some stocks, not because you think the company is failing, but because you need cash for something important, like medical bills or a down payment on a house. What this means for the future. So, what does all this tell us about where things are headed? First, Japan's currency problems aren't going away anytime soon. As long as the yen stays weak, Japan will likely continue to intervene in currency markets, which might mean selling more U.S. debt. Second, this situation highlights how interconnected the global economy really is. Japan's domestic issues affect how much U.S. debt they buy or sell, which can influence U.S. interest rates and borrowing costs. Third, it shows that even the strongest economic partnerships face challenges and adjustments. Japan and the U.S. remain close allies, but their financial relationship is evolving. The bottom line: here's what you should take away from all this. 1. Japan has been America's biggest foreign lender for years, holding over $1 trillion in U.S. debt. 2. Recently, Japan has sold off about $220 billion of that debt, not because they don't trust America, but because they need to address problems at home. 3. The main reason for the sell-off is to support Japan's weakening currency, which is making imports, especially energy, more expensive for Japanese people. 4. This isn't a crisis for either country, but rather Japan making practical financial decisions based on its own needs. So next time you hear someone talking about foreign countries buying or selling U.S. debt and making it sound scary or complicated, you'll know what's really going on. It's not about politics or lack of trust. It's mostly just countries managing their money based on their own needs. And there you have it. A complicated economic situation explained in plain English. No economics degree required. If you found this helpful, give the video a like and let me know in the comments what other economic topics you'd like me to break down next time. Thanks for watching.